Hello and welcome. You're with IndiaPostLive.com, India's first live conversation web portal. Well, in this conversation, we are going to discuss two very interesting subjects. The first, Pakistan ranks 158th out of 180 countries when it comes to the Free Press Index, and this is according to the Reporters Without Borders. This is their report of 2014. Pakistan is one of the most dangerous countries to be working as a journalist in. The second point that we will be talking about, all of you remember, of course, that two Indian journalists who were working in Pakistan, Snehesh Alex Philip and Meena Menon of PTI and Hindu, were suddenly asked to leave the country without any explanation. I'm very happy to say that I have with me Snehesh Alex Philip in the studio, and we also have Meena Menon who will be joining us on the phone line. I'm also joined in the studio by senior journalist and political analyst Vinod Sharma. Vinod Sharma has served in Pakistan himself, and he is also the regional president of SAFMA, that is the South Asia Free Media Association. I would like to first welcome Alex and Vinodji. Vinod sir, thank you so much for joining the conversation. And Alex, so back after 9 months in Islamabad?
Yes, back after 9 months.
That was a very short stay. All right, we will talk about that. We also hope to have many online guests joining us from Islamabad, joining us hopefully from Vancouver, a friend of India Post Live, Jahanzeb Hussain, who is the founder of Collateral Damage. We hope to get all these people online, and we hope to engage in a very enlightening conversation. All right, so let me first start with you, Alex. Before we get to how dangerous Pakistan really is for journalists, recount your experience with us. How was it working over there?
See, as far as I was concerned, I was based in Islamabad, and both Meena and I never had the permission to step out of Islamabad.
Right.
So we, in a way, worked within the safe, so-called safe confines of Islamabad. Working there was, it was an interesting assignment. It was an interesting experience. It was good. It was good as long as it lasted there, just 9 months, as you said. Gave me the opportunity to interact with a wide section of the Pakistani society. And that's when I realized, from whatever that we hear about Pakistan from India is the fact that you hear about terror, hear about other things, But when I reached Pakistan, once I lived there, I understood that, you have different Pakistans within Pakistan. Like you have the government side, you have the military side, you have the jihadi side. And then you also have, common people, people who are into the banking sector, who are educated, who are traveling out, who are just like modern, like any other Indians or in Mumbai, Delhi or any other city. So you have different pockets of Pakistan. So your perception of Pakistan depends on actually whom you interact with. So if you interact with a particular section and then you interact with a different section, the perception changes dramatically.
All right. So Vinod sir, how was it for you? And your comments on the question we are asking, is Pakistan a landmine for journalists?
Well, first of all, I will say that, I don't agree with the proposition that Pakistan is there's a free speech is in danger. Actually, Pakistani journalists are very bold and doughty compared to the tribe in India. They have, for I don't know how many years now, been struggling against dictatorships, against extra constitutional forces. And remember that Karamat Ali, the legendary Karamat Ali, who was the editor, who was the representative of Far Eastern's Economic Review, he was also arrested for his reportage on Balochistan under Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's time. And indeed, Indian journalists there, you have heard about Menon and Alex, but in 1994, there were 3 Indian journalists who were also not given any extension of their resident visa, and that included me. And that included Sunil Narula of the Times of India and the All India Radio correspondent Chopra. And at that time, we got to understand that they were trying to maintain parity because we had 5 journalists there and they had just 2. So they wanted to keep 2 and send the 3 back. But the situation was quite similar to being declared a PNG, persona non grata. having said that, you see, currently Pakistan has a very free media, and that free media does not desist from stating things which may be uncomfortable to the establishment, the so-called civil military establishment of Pakistan.
Right.
The prime mover of which is the inter-services intelligence and the army and a whole lot of other paraphernalia which comes with the establishment. And Hamid Mir and Salim Shehzad.
Right. Yes.
Salim Shehzad was killed. Hamid Mir, there was an attack on his life,
Yeah.
and with some providence he has been saved. Before that, there was Raza Rumi.
Raza
There was
Rumi,
an attack on Raza Rumi.
His driver
so,
was
a number
killed.
of
Yeah.
journalists in Pakistan have been attacked.
Yes.
And the prime reason for the attack on them has been that they have been reporting also on the problems that the army is facing from Al-Qaeda, the infiltration, which was Salim Shehzad's case.
Yes.
He was found dead at a place called Mandi Bahauddin, if I remember correctly, in 2011. He had reported on the infiltration of the Al-Qaeda in the Navy.
That's
in
right.
the Pakistan Navy.
Yes.
And similarly, Hamid Mir was reporting on the missing persons. Now, this missing persons issue in Balochistan has been a very, very volatile issue insofar as the establishment there is concerned. Even Chaudhry Iftikhar, who was the Chief Justice of Pakistan, when he summoned the senior officials in the missing persons case, there was, a kind of a huge ferment in the political establishment there. And it caused a whole lot of problems. So this missing persons issue in Balochistan is an issue on which Hamid Mir had done a program.
Yes.
And there was an attack thereafter on him, and his brother Amir later said that the ISI had a hand in it. Similarly, the ISI was accused in Salim Shehzad's case of having a hand
Right.
in taking him out. So, this is a very difficult proposition, but the Pakistani journalist understands the value of freedom more than
Right.
journalists in India understand, because we have taken it for granted since independence, and they get it once in a while.
Right.
Once they've gotten it, they want to keep it.
Right.
And they keep it at the expense of their lives.
Right. Let me get a view of Beena Sarwar, who is a renowned journalist and filmmaker. She joins us through Skype. Beena ma'am, thank you so much for joining the conversation. Welcome to IndiaPostLive.com.
Thank you so much.
We are discussing the whole issue of how Pakistan has been termed as a very unsafe place for journalists, A, and B, also the issue of the two Indian journalists from PTI and Hindu who were suddenly asked to leave. Ma'am, your first comments on Pakistan as a place for journalists.
Well, yes, it is a dangerous place for journalists, and I think I would like to appreciate what Mr. Vinod Sharma, his comments recently, and I think he has put it very well when he has said that, when he has noted that in Pakistan we have had to fight against so many things, so many extra constitutional forces, and so we really do appreciate the value of our of press freedom, as well as these forces are still at work trying to prevent media from being free. In terms of the expulsion of the two Indian journalists, Meena Menon and Snehal Phillips, it's really unfortunate, and I think, as Mr. Sharma recently pointed out, that Pakistan was trying to quote-unquote maintain parity. I think, in my view, that's a very immature position to take, because I think it is in our interest and to our benefit as Pakistanis to get views from India by Pakistanis, of Pakistanis in India. So for the establishment to say that, well, we don't have any journalists there, so we are not going to let your journalists stay here, I personally think that's a very mature view, and I think that's not a very statesmanlike position to take, and I think that it should be reconsidered. Secondly, I think that times have really changed since the time that Mr. Sharma was talking about, when the journalists were earlier let to go. One thing is the rise of the internet. I know most media outlets in Pakistan right now actually have correspondents in India who are Indian.
Yes.
So they are people who are, they are local correspondents who are Indian in India, writing or reporting for Pakistani newspapers, TV channels, radio channels. However, that is not the same thing as having somebody go there with a different perspective who is living there as a Pakistani in India. So there may be financial constraints, so they may think, well, media outlets all over the world are cutting down on foreign correspondence, and maybe Pakistani, we don't know why Pakistani journalists are not in India right now. I was told that India wasn't giving clearance to the journalists who were nominated, but I still don't know which journalists were nominated. Nobody does. I don't know if anybody has, any media outlet has tried to send any journalists. I don't think they have personally. I mean, I think that it's just being let go. And it is unfortunate that in that, scheme of things that Meena and Snehesh were sent home because they were doing some really good reporting from Pakistan. Which was actually to Pakistan's benefit, because both of these journalists are very seasoned journalists. They are open-minded journalists. They are not bigoted. They are not quote-unquote hyper-nationalist or anything like that. And having them in Pakistan was of benefit to Pakistan. So I think Pakistan really should consider, and I think Pakistani media should really make a push to send journalists to India.
Right. Alex is in fact in the studio with us, and we also have Meena Menon on the phone line. Can I quickly get Meena Menon, if she can hear me? Meena Menon, can you hear me? All right. We seem to be having an audio issue with her, but she is in Delhi, and we're trying to get her on the phone. All right. Meena, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello Meena, welcome to India Post Live, the conversation that we are having on Pakistan being a dangerous place for journalists, and of course the issue of your having to come back. Tell us, how was it working as a woman for you in Pakistan? How was the experience?
I think it wasn't very different from India. Mostly people treated me with great courtesy and went out of their way to help. And even the government officials, even in the Foreign Office, and other people I met for my stories were most welcoming and gave me a lot of information and help, obviously without which I couldn't do the stories I did. So I don't think that was an issue. And in terms of mobility, yes, Islamabad, we were limited there, as Snehesh has already told you. We weren't allowed to go anywhere else.
Anywhere outside
so within Islamabad, yes, I did go to some of the far-flung sectors and stuff for stories. And I didn't feel at all uncomfortable or unwelcome anywhere.
All right. Mr. Sharma, would you like to ask Meena Menon something?
Yeah, of course. There are certain don'ts in Pakistan, as I understood living there. And once you transgress those lines, there is a problem. I remember, in 1994 when we were asked to leave, I saw a meeting with Nasirullah Babar, who was then the Home Minister, and I saw that meeting through Mariana, his niece. And I went and told him, I said, look, I don't have a vested interest in staying in Pakistan, but you should, as a leader of the Pakistan People's Party, which claims to be different from the so-called torchbearers of the Pakistan movement, that you should ensure that these bridges are not destroyed. And I can understand that journalists being sent away during the PPP regime, because I asked this Benazir herself that, look, each time you were there, the relationship between India and Pakistan touched its nadir. And why was it so? Because Benazir, in my perception, and I stand to be corrected by people like Beena Sarwar, that she was all the time seeking to live down the myth of being pro-India. And that caused a whole lot of problems in our bilateral relations. And, journalists were sent back. In 2003, she came to power. And I remember January 1, 2004 were the Foreign Secretary level talks. And that led to a major crisis. The talks broke down.
Right.
And the journalists were sent back, one after another. So, this is a serious problem. And it is happening now under the regime of Nawaz Sharif, who, compared to Benazir, by their predilections, and I'm not trying to support their predilections, is twice qualified to rule Pakistan as an ethnic Kashmiri brought up in Punjab. as compared to Benazir, who happened to be a Sindhi and a doctor of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, and a whole lot of other things. The prejudice which is there against her and her party in the state of Punjab, which is the biggest state there. So I must say that there the two leaderships have to sit down and sort this out.
Right.
You can't hold up journalists in Islamabad. I mean, we got an all Pakistan visa initial first year. Thereafter, we were also holed up in Islamabad. Yes, we had the freedom of going to Rawalpindi, which is a twin city. I don't know whether these guys had it or not.
They didn't.
But this is something which is happening between the two countries. What the diplomats are not given, journalists are also not given. So this is the problem, and this is such a silly thing to do it. It's a very silly thing that you are having a person there and you want him holed up inside in Islamabad. Islamabad is not a city; it is a man-made city. There is no historicity to it, unlike to Lahore or to Karachi or to Peshawar. And I had the good fortune of going to cover elections in Peshawar, in the 2003 elections, and I met Khan Abdul Wali Khan in Charsadda and all that. Those were the days. But now, because of the threat from the extra-constitutional authorities, the jihadis, they have a good excuse not to let journalists go out. But this is just an excuse. They must let journalists move. There should not be any boundaries for journalists in South Asia. There should be no-go zones. The South Asia Free Media Association stands for that,
Right.
has been struggling for it for over a decade now.
Yes,
They allow other foreign journalists to travel, not the Indian journalists.
Right. We will also, I want to discuss Declan Welch also. But very quickly, let me get a quick video response from Amir Mughal, who has sent us a video response from Karachi. Can we please play that response?
Intelligence agencies and journalists use each other throughout the world since many years. But there are certain limits, there are certain boundaries which are to be respected, which are not to be violated at any cost. The most important is the sanctity of human life and privacy. That is to be respected by the both. No doubt, the press freedom or state of media freedom in Pakistan is not ideal. But the journalists and the media houses in Pakistan must do some soul searching as to why they have reached to this situation. And one of the main reasons of this rot in media reporting or reporting is that they carry agendas instead of neutral and impartial reporting.
All right, so that was a response we got from Amir Mughal from Karachi, and I also am joined by, we are getting a lot of responses. I can see, can I see Bina ma'am back? Is she with us again on Skype? Can I get Bina ma'am on Skype? All right, okay, I think we've lost connection. We're trying to get her back. Right now, I have Farhan Janjua. Farhan is a blogger and web content developer at Dunia Network. Farhan, good evening, can you hear me?
Good evening, I can.
Hi Farhan, thank you so much for joining the conversation. All right, you have
Thank you
been,
for having me.
thank you so much. You have been listening to, Vinod Sharma. He had to leave, he had some urgent work, but he has been saying that this entire thing of, Indian journalists having to be holed up in Islamabad really silly, and if you are working there, you should be allowed to travel freely within the country, and the South Asia Free Media Association has been trying that. You also know that 2 Indian journalists were sent back without any explanation. What are your thoughts on this issue, Farhan?
Right, so I completely agree to what Vinod sir said. I mean, he's right that there are, journalists, foreign journalists who have some sort of restrictions and limitations while working in Pakistan. And since you and your panel already talked about 2 such examples where Alex sir and Amina ma'am had to leave the country. because of some.
All right, Farhan.
I
Farhan, we'll try and get back to you. There is some disturbance in the audio. I'm getting a lot of some kind of ambience sound. We'll try and get back to you, Farhan. But yeah, he is also basically agreeing with that. Tell me, when was the first time, if I understand correctly, from whatever I was reading, your wife had come to visit you and she had to go back, and when she had to return, she was denied visa. Was that the first time you had a sense that something is wrong?
Well, she was not exactly denied a visa. What happened was that before she had to come here for two of her friends' wedding, and she traveled to India from Islamabad on Jan 29th. And prior to leaving, I had already spoken to the Pakistani High Commission officials here,
Right.
saying if there would be any problem, because ours was only a single entry visa. So we could never come back, and even if we come back, we could never go back
Yes.
without a fresh visa.
Right.
So they had promised that there would be no issues and it would be issued within the next 2 weeks or something. So she applied for a visa on the Feb 3rd, and she was supposed to be back by the first week of March after 2 weddings, which never happened. And every time that we inquired, we were told that it is under process. So that process took a long while, and finally, as per the process, I was asked to go back, and that's what happened.
Did you ever feel shadowed? Did you ever feel that you were followed while you were working there?
Well, that is very obvious, because we were under 24-hour surveillance. All our phones were tapped, internet was, emails were
Monitored.
It's something that you live with it, and wherever we go, for example, they knew beforehand where we're going, and there were occasions where we met people, and they were questioned later, why we met them or what happened or things like that. There were times when me and my wife used to go out somewhere, and randomly people would come and take pictures, and we knew they were from the.
So you were
from the
almost like a
agency.
celebrity over there.
No, it was not a celebrity kind of thing. It was the
I know.
pictures taken by. You
I
can
know.
recognize the people who
Of
take the
course,
pictures
of
and all.
course, yeah.
And then there was also being followed around. And so that, like for example, Meena had some lovely experiences of being followed. She went for trekking in Margla Hills, and the poor guys had to follow her up the hill, trekking. So
Well, they should have known if she loves trekking. All right, let me bring another journalist from Lahore, Gul Bukhari. She joins us from Lahore through Skype. Thank you so much for joining the conversation.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, my first question to you, I think you have been listening to what has been discussed. The whole issue of journalists being unsafe in Pakistan, A, and B, the 2 journalists who had to come back. Let me first ask you, what have your experiences been like as a journalist who is promoting harmony in the country? What has your experience been like? What kind of pressures have you had to face from the establishment as well as from other forces like the Al-Qaeda and the Taliban?
A quick couple of points. Unfortunately, I was able to only just join in.
Yeah.
Hangout wasn't working out, and so we just managed to get onto Skype. So I'm a little bit unaware of what has gone before me, except for the last journalist who was just speaking to you about being surveilled a lot in Pakistan because of one's work. The interesting thing is that I have worked as a journalist, plus I am right now working with a human rights organization
Right.
that gives security trainings to, amongst others, journalists and human rights defenders. And all the things that the gentleman was talking about are very, very serious concerns for us and for, of course, the human rights defenders. Like being surveilled on telephone, on their computers, etc., etc.
Right.
So, a couple of things that we do is to give trainings on how to keep your communication secure, because that is an area which actually does endanger journalists quite a lot. So their communications are intercepted, and we train them on how best not to have their communications intercepted and to keep their privacy intact. Now, as far as experiences are, you're talking about the experiences in Pakistan.
Yes.
Of course, journalists are treading a very, very difficult line here, because they know that on the one hand there is the establishment, and on the other there are the extremists. And as you know, the UN report mentions a number of journalists who have been attacked, threatened, or killed in the line of duty. But
Yes.
some really well-known names are, for example, that of Salim
Salim Shehzad, yes.
Exactly, exactly. And I think most, or let's say, the most dangerous thing to report about, perhaps in order of, if you're going to rate it, is militancy. And when you're reporting on militancy, it's never just that you're going to be under threat from the militants, but because there is a nexus of militants with, let's say, other organizations, so you could be under threat from anywhere, and sometimes you don't know. And if you look at the case of our anchor, really well-known anchor Hamid Mir, in his case also, he was under threat from many, many different directions.
Yes.
And it's at times there are commissions who sit on these things. We never get anything conclusive out of it. So of course that concern is there. But I think what's very important now is, apart from physical safety, we need, I think, our journalists to be very well aware of their online and digital security, because it does
Right.
impact their physical security a lot.
Right, Gul, thank you
That's-
so much.
that's one way of looking at it.
Yeah. Let me just quickly sum up what you said, and then I want, I'll try and get Meena Menon back on the phone line with us. Pakistan journalists, as Mr. Vinod Sharma was just pointing out, I think that's the part of the conversation you missed. He said that Pakistani journalists are brave, they are robust, they have to deal with so many threats, something that we Indian journalists take for granted. We take our freedom for granted, we take our freedom of expression, our freedom of speech for granted. But for you have had to face pressures from political groupings, sectarian groupings, extremist militants, as well as the military establishment. So let me
And
say
as
hats
well
off
as
to you,
if I-
hats off to the Pakistani journalists who, despite all these pressures, have gone working despite a threat to their lives.
Thank you very much. And I think all the groupings that you have mentioned
Yes.
misses out just one other group, and that is of random people.
Okay.
Really, because it's random. Because if you think about, when you talk about social issues, when you talk about religious issues, when you get labeled with having of being blasphemous or having committed blasphemy,
Right.
and that opens you up to all manner of vigilante attacks.
Right.
It can, yeah.
Let me
So
try and
that's
get
another-
Meena Menon on the phone line. I hope you will also be able to hear this, Gul. Meena, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
All right. You just heard, journalist from Lahore, Gul Bukhari, talk about, the fact that one has to be sensitized to digital security and online security when it comes to, working as a journalist in Pakistan. You have, Alex was just telling us this story about, you went trekking once and you were shadowed. Very briefly, tell us about that.
Well, it was a Sunday, and my husband and I walked up Trail 6, and there were these two guys who are our usual shadows,
Yeah.
and they walked up, they didn't know the way, and then they kept asking people who were coming down, will they come down the same way? So we walked up, we went right to the top, and then we realized that they weren't following us, and they'd given up halfway.
All right. So they were
And-
huffing and puffing while you were enjoying the trek.
Of course, we were thoroughly enjoying ourselves, and in fact, I had to ask them to move out of my photograph because I didn't want them to ruin my frame.
All right.
So we went up and we took a traverse to another side of the mountain,
Okay.
and they kept waiting for
Okay,
us.
the lighter side apart, of course, we just tried to, bring in a lighter side to this, but actually the issue is very serious. What do you plan
No,
to
it's very serious.
What do you plan to do now? Meena, you and Alex have come back. Now, will you be going back to Pakistan at the first opportunity you get?
I don't see those opportunities coming. I mean, the way you're putting it, it's not exactly our wish to go back.
Right.
So it's a long, tedious process, and that entirely depends on whether the office wants to send a correspondent to Pakistan. And for now, I'm going to be stationed in Delhi. So
All right.
That's how it is.
All right, and I hope very quickly we, hear a more detailed account of your experiences in Islamabad. Alex, let me ask you: do you think Nawaz Sharif had to buckle to a military establishment which tried to say that, listen, we are stronger than you, we are dictating a lot of important issues, including foreign policy, vis-a-vis India?
Well, that is the fact. The military there has a tremendous influence over the foreign policy. And for example, if we keep out our case apart, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi had invited the all the SAARC countries, including the Pakistan Prime Minister, to visit him, it took him more than 48 hours to decide. And eventually it was the Pakistani media which had reported that it was eventually after Mr. Shahbaz Sharif met the army chief, and that final decision was taken. So it shows that in spite of the forward movement that has taken place in terms of the democratic system there, the military continues to have the military or the establishment as a whole continues to have a strong influence in when it comes to foreign policy matters or in security matters. Both.
All right, I think we have thanks. I think we have Beena Sarwar back on Skype with us. Beena ma'am, are you there? Can you hear me? Okay, I believe there is a yeah, Beena ma'am.
Yes, I can hear
Yeah, all
you.
right.
I have to turn, I'm sorry, there's a technical thing. I had to turn off the show. I had to turn off the browser window.
All right.
If I had that on, the Skype as well was...
All right, I understand. All right, okay, if you can hear me, we were just talking about the fact that, journalists in Pakistan, and, hats off, I was saying, which even Mr. Vinod Sharma pointed out, you have to grapple with all these issues of, the military establishment, the political groupings, the sectarian groupings, and the extremist militants, which of course is a larger threat, but as far as the two Indian journalists are concerned, I want to ask you this. A very interesting, the fact that just before the elections, last year, May 2013, Declan Walsh, who was NYT's, the New York Times Pakistan bureau chief, he was sent back again without any explanation, and he was expelled rather. Now, after Nawaz Sharif came back, when he came into power, he had promised that he would look into it. It's been 13 months. Nothing has happened. So again, the question I was asking Alex, Nawaz Sharif is weak. The military establishment has a stronger hold in deciding which journalist gets to stay and who doesn't.
Well, I think that it's part of a process. I think we have to weigh what's going on, and yes, you are right. In this case, and in Meena and Sneha's case, absolutely, it looks like behind the scenes it's the military or the security establishment pulling the strings and saying that they should not be there, and similarly with Declan Walsh. Now, you have to remember, I think with Meena, she had written something about the Balochistan issue, and so had Declan Walsh.
Right.
And that is the sticking point at this right now.
Yes.
It is after that, after his stand on Balochistan, that Hamid Mir was attacked.
Yes.
So it's a very sore point for the Pakistani security establishment. They say that India is involved in funding and arming militant groups in Balochistan. And they say that this is kind of, they don't want to say that this is what we did in Kashmir. But they don't like anybody saying anything about Balochistan.
Right.
It's a very sensitive area, and there are a lot of grays there because there are a lot of different aspects to the issue. It's not as black and white as sometimes it is made out to be. I think that eventually, I believe that if the political process, the democratic political process is allowed to continue, I think eventually the military security establishment will start following policy directives of the elected civilian government. But you have to remember that it takes a long time for those changes to take place. It is like, if a train is going full speed at a certain direction and somebody pulls the chain, then it takes a while for it to come to a stop and change direction. I think that is the same case with Pakistan. The train has been pulled, the train is slowly coming to a halt, and it will make a U-turn, it will make a turn, but it will take time. And in the meantime, we have to remain, keep up the pressure to support the elected civilian government and to support media freedom and to support freedom of expression and all of those.
Right. Okay. Let me now bring in Aisha Sarwari. Aisha is a columnist with Daily Times Pakistan, and she joins us on Skype as well. Aisha, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, Aisha. Thank you so much, and welcome to the conversation on IndiaPostLive.com.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Aisha, and welcome to the conversation. Can you hear me? Aisha seems to have. I could hear Aisha, but Aisha cannot hear me. Aisha,
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well, Aisha. Can I ask you?
Yeah. Okay,
All right, great. Okay, now that we are clear that we can hear each other,
Yes.
what we were just told by Beena ma'am was that this is a very complicated issue, and that perhaps all that Pakistani journalists can do is keep supporting the democratically elected government despite all the pressures that journalists in Pakistan face, as we were just talking a while ago. What are your comments on that, to ensure that the sane voices, the rational voices in Pakistan can stay safe yet continue honestly and to do their work?
It goes without saying that the democratic forces have to be supported, and journalists play a very important part in that. No matter how bleak the situation gets, and trust me, this is a very bleak situation. Sitting here in Islamabad and listening to the stories that almost 1,000 journalists either attacked or put under pressure like that is a huge concern. But it really hit home for me specifically when a good friend and a patriot by any definition, Raza Rumi, was attacked a few days ago, and this was when it really hit home for me, because this is an indication that society is turning towards an extreme end, and it is on the dictate of terrorists. But what concerns me specifically is that we are looking at a civil society that is anemic to an extent, because there isn't a sort of reaction from people that is befitting to the kind of outrage that has been created with these attacks.
Right.
I think Pakistanis and with the advent of social media now, everybody is a journalist, everybody has a power of opinion, and this message can be really amplified if people really put their join hands and forget about political affiliations and work for the single cause of freedom of opinion. This
Great.
is very important.
Right. All right. So, Alex, those were comments from your colleagues sitting in Pakistan. And, I would like to think that in your you were there for a very short period of time. Your predecessors were there much longer. I'm sure you made very good friends in Pakistan, didn't you?
Well, I did, and some of the friends that I've made, be it journalists, be it I've made friends with architects, lawyers, and all, and they're going to last me a lifetime.
Yes.
So that's why I said, there are different Pakistans within Pakistan. So
Right.
there was a segment of the society which I saw, that I mingled with. I used to go to the house. We used to play with the kids there. It was a lovely experience. And then you also see a different side of Pakistan too, which is one that you usually end up seeing in the news, and which is the sad part. But that is also a reality which is there. So yes, I had a great experience overall there. As I said earlier, made some great, amazing friends who I wish will come to India, and we might meet soon again.
Another very interesting point coming to where we are right now, and we are in the studios of IndiaPostLive.com, and this is an interactive platform where people can join in online from all over and talk to us. Right now, friends and colleagues, journalists sitting in India and sitting in Pakistan are talking to each other. So when it comes to the online space, the digital space, I'm sure that kind of a threat does not exist in terms of, freely expressing views to each other, right? Then why is it that an Indian working in Pakistan faces that kind of a threat?
Well, so Indian journalists, of course, get treated in a different way because of the history, because of the packages that come with it, and generally, if I presume, you're generally thought to be, not just a journalist. For example, I don't know, Like one of the things, Tribune, there was a paper called the Express Tribune which reported that we were chucked out because we were unfriendly. You know, I didn't know what unfriendly things I did.
Yeah.
You know, so I was telling one official in Pakistan कि भैया हम तो दोस्ती करने आए थे, तो ये unfriendly क्या है? So he also had a laugh about it. But it's even on the digital, even on the social front also. Like for example, I'm right now at Tees. You know, I'm able to talk about things without even thinking about what I'm saying.
Of course.
But if I was based in Islamabad right now, I would have been a different Snehesh. You know, probably I would have been more guarded in my response. You know, I would have thought about what I was exactly saying.
You're looking behind your shoulder all the time.
You're always looking behind your shoulders. You're never at ease in Islamabad.
Right.
No matter how many friends that you have, no matter how comfortable that you tend to get into the society, but you still is something, because it's not just Indian journalists, it's the Pakistani journalist also. And as Mr. Sharma sir had mentioned earlier, that the Pakistani journalists are doing a tremendous job despite the huge amount of threat that they face. And we as Indian journalists, we tend to take it lightly, the freedom that has been given to us.
All right, let me bring back Farhan. Farhan, you've been sitting quietly and listening to us. Sorry, but you know, we've tried to have many voices talk to us. You just heard that, you know, Snehesh Alex has said that, you know, in Islamabad, he was having to look over his shoulder. Meena Menon was followed, you know, till those guys just got tired when they went on their trek. You know, isn't it a very sad situation, Farhan? And what do you think journalists can do? What do you think journalists can do trans-border to ensure that, you know, this doesn't happen and we are friends as we are talking in a friendly manner online? That we can remain friends even while working there, and we can breathe and work at peace and freely even while working there.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that this indeed is a very sad and also awkward situation that Amina ma'am was followed by people in Islamabad. But I also have to add that since this is the Indian journalist and the circumstances between India and Pakistan are kind of extraordinary. So I think if there was a Pakistani journalist in India, he would also be facing some sort of, you know, extraordinary situations. This is because the journalists from India and Pakistan run the risk of being mistaken as the ISI or RAW agents. So I'm sure they have extraordinary scrutiny. That having said, I completely agree. I completely agree that there should be. I mean, this is stupidity. I mean, I was agreeing with what Vinod sir said, that there should be no-go areas for the journalists, especially for the South Asian journalists. And the journalists from India and Pakistan should be free to go where they think they need to go to report without any biases. I'm all for it. And I think in order to answer your second question, what we as a journalist or a blogger individually can do is we can, I think this initiative of yours is a great initiative that despite having all the visa obstacles and other issues, we still get to sit together in this beautiful studio of yours and talk to each other. So this is something extraordinary. And I think we need to keep doing what we are doing here, and we need to keep interacting with each other.
Yes.
And you know, that's the first step towards good relations and, you know, asking for, you know, working together towards progress and towards a more democratic Indo-Pak region. So I think we need to keep talking. Yeah.
Farhan, thank you so much. Those were very nice comments that we need to keep working, we need to keep writing, and we need to keep interacting with each other. So, Alex, you have come back after quite an experience, and it must have been traumatic at so many levels for you, but it is important that at least the media, the journalists who are writing about these problems keep interacting with each other, don't you think?
Well, that's a great thing. You know, I'm still in touch with all the friends that I made back there among the journalistic community.
Right.
I think, you know, some of the great people who helped me, who supported me, and who helped me settle down in Islamabad were some of the journalists themselves. You know, they were the ones who introduced me to people. Like, for example, when I landed in Islamabad, I had zero contacts. Bina Server is the person who gave me all my initial contacts. You know, she's the person who gave me the people that I should get in touch with. So people like Bina Server, people like other people whose name I will not take, but those were the people who really helped me settle down and helped me go about with it.
All right, all right. And now we are joined by another very well-known journalist from Pakistan, Meher Tarar. Meher Tarar joins us through Skype. And Meher, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Meher. Thank you so much for joining the conversation. Meher, we were discussing the entire issue of Pakistan being a very unsafe place for journalists. It is ranked 158 out of 180 according to Reporters Without Borders. Very quickly, if we could have your comments on that issue.
I look at the situation not just dangerous for journalists per se, but for people in Pakistan. I mean, I connected to lawlessness more than anything else at the moment.
Right.
I'm not saying that the journalists have not been attacked directly, but I do believe it has a lot to do with lawlessness in Pakistan. It has a lot to do with the fact that people think they can get away with anything. Because it's not that only journalists are being attacked. Everybody is being attacked. Human rights activists, lawyers, doctors, social workers. So you can't really say that it's just dangerous for journalists.
Right.
I believe it has a lot to do with the with the spate of terrorism that we have been assaulted by the last few years. I think it has a lot to do with that too.
All right, all right. Meher, I have lost your video, but of course I can hear you and I hope you can hear me too. We are specifically, while I completely appreciate what you're saying, we are specifically talking of the issue of journalists, especially because 2 Indian journalists were asked to come back, as you're aware. And we were talking of the way forward. We were talking of how, as journalists from both these countries, who are the sane, rational voices, who are not bowing down to different kinds of the multi-layered and the multi-nuanced pressures that you people face in terms of from militants, from political and sectarian groupings, and from the military establishment. What is the way forward, Meher? How can we resolve this as far as journalists and journalism is concerned?
There is no one rule, there's no one solution. You can't say that, okay, this is happening and so is attacking us, so let's get together and let's figure out a solution, then let's talk to A, B, C and D and get to the point where there would be no danger and where there would be no attack on our freedom. That is not going to happen. There is no one solution.
Right.
The only thing that people can do is go on doing what they are doing. But then at the end of the day, a lot of people back off because what is the price here? If you feel that you are doing something, if you're writing about stuff that is going to get you a lot of undesirable attention from people who do not want to be talked about, people who do not want their actions to be recognized as crimes by society, by other segments of media, by the international media, by human rights groups. Where do you go from there? Well, how do you deal with that situation? But yes, what everybody can do is that when any untoward incident happens, whenever a journalist is attacked, be it a print journalist or an electronic media journalist, the most important thing is to unite against whatever has happened to that person. I think that is the most important thing, because and it has to be done without any ifs and buts. You cannot start saying, okay, so and so was doing this and this happened, that happened, and that. You have to be very clear about saying that no, you cannot start attacking people or harming people or killing people in the worst case scenario just because you do not like what is being said. Anything, for instance, it has a lot to do with intolerance. Like for instance, in the last 2-3 days, there's been a lot of noise in the Indian media about the rapes in India. about the rapes in UP. Now, when you're talking about things which are being said in Indian media, we look at the news, or it's not that Pakistan media is reporting that. And as soon as you start to talk about it, people start to say.
So you're
people start
talking of
to
a
attack you,
synergy.
even for that.
Okay.
No, what I'm saying is people think just because you're highlighting an ill, you're doing something bad. And that's this is just a small example, but whenever it comes to a casualty of whenever it comes to a journalist who
Right.
has been harmed simply for doing his or her job, all of us who have some part who are a part of
It's
the
an attack on
journalistic
all of
world
us, isn't
in
it?
any way. I mean, I used to work for a newspaper. I'm no longer, but yes, for anything.
It's
The
an
thing
attack
is,
on all of us,
I
right.
read online Mia Farrow, who's one of the most well-known activists. Really, she talked about a petition which actually affected a change. She was talking. I'm sorry, I've forgotten. I have
That's all right.
forgotten the name of the petition. But she actually said that they were able to get a lot done.
All right. All right, Meher, okay, I think we're just trying to get the audio back. We've lost, we are joined right now from Lahore by Kamran Shafi sir. Kamran sir, welcome to the conversation. Thank you so much for joining the conversation, sir. We are discussing the issue. Can you hear me, sir?
I can't see you.
You can't see me? All right. All right, but okay, let's have, because I can see you very clearly, and so can all the people on IndiaPostLive.com. We were talking of how this report has come, the 2014 report of Reporters Without Borders, that Pakistan is ranked 158th.
There's somebody. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
There's somebody else talking in the background, isn't there?
No, it's just me.
Oh.
There might
then
be
let me
a.
switch off the other. You're just it's so confusing. Let me just shut off the other one. Then. Hold on.
All right. I think what you're listening to is an echo or a reverb on the website. Is that what it is?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
even is it off now? Yeah, it's off now.
Okay, you can hear me now? Great.
I can hear you, but can't see you. Anyway.
All right.
So, look, I thought the question was about the minefield that
it is.
Pakistani journalists have to go across, and I empathize with what people have said about the Indian journalists who were expelled from Pakistan. I think it's a highly stupid thing to do. I don't think it should have happened. It should never happen. Just keeping them in the Islamabad area is also highly stupid. Anyway, things happen. However, let's go to the minefield. And the problem today in Pakistan is, sadly, that the parts of the media are themselves helping those that do not want freedom of the expression in laying the minefield. What they don't understand is that once the mines have been laid, remember, by definition, mines are those things, those instruments of war and decapitation and stuff like that, that once we're underground, nobody can see them. If the people who've laid them are not there, they don't know where they are. And if they've marked out the minefield, anybody can get blown up. So what I'm saying to the rest of the media, that is today helping those people who do not want freedom of expression to lay those minefields, to desist, because tomorrow, heaven forbid, they will get their own legs blown off. I hope they don't, but it's the time that they stop. I think that is a far more important thing to discuss now, after all the kudos that you've paid to the Pakistani press. Thank you for that. The Pakistani press has come of age.
Yes,
It is not going to be cowed down. Let me say to those people who want no free press, it is not going to be cowed down. But let the others, the part of the media who are helping lay the minefields, to desist.
All right. Thank you so much, Kamran sir. Let me quickly, we are about to wrap up the conversation. Of course, that will continue on the portal through our audio, video comments and our posts and our tweets. Can I get Beena ma'am, if Beena ma'am is here with us on Skype, your final comments, Kamran sir also said that journalists, we simply cannot be cowed down. We simply cannot allow these pressures to terrorize us and to scare us. Is Beena ma'am there online? Beena ma'am?
I can hear you.
All right, all right.
I think we're all on.
Great. Beena ma'am, your final comments, we have to wrap up the conversation in the studio, but your final comments and
Hello?
also, Beena ma'am?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Your final comments, please.
Well, I think I would just reiterate what some other people have already said, that journalists need to keep on interacting and reporting honestly above and beyond religious or national or sectarian considerations.
Right.
And we have to keep raising a voice for each other and for each other's freedoms, whether it is Pakistanis in, getting Pakistani journalists in India or getting Indian journalists in Pakistan.
Great, yeah. Thank you so much, Beena ma'am, for your comments. Can I quickly go across to Meher Tarar? Meher, hi. Thank you so much for first pointing out that everybody, a lot of people, a lot of professionals are under threat. Of course, this conversation we have limited it to journalists. Very quickly, your final comments on the issue that Kamran sir just talked about, that no matter what, we have to keep fighting. We have to keep moving on.
Yes, exactly. We have to keep moving on. But as Beena just said, that everything that happens has to be beyond any consideration, beyond any agenda. You see, a lot of people start to become intolerant about things when they feel that a certain segment or just a certain in the institution is being talked about or is being investigated.
Right.
We need to ensure that you see investigate. I think the biggest danger that journalists face they face is when they're in investigative journalism.
Right.
Obviously, in any profession where things are done which are not supposed to be made public, people are going to become very uncomfortable as soon as you start to ask questions.
Right.
I asked a cousin of mine in police. It is about a case. It is about a case with one of the most famous, tragic incidents in Pakistan recently, when Raza Rumi's car was attacked. And I was trying to get some answers from the police, and I gave them 5 questions, and they were normal, simple things, and they said, no, we cannot answer you.
Exactly. That kind of pressure.
Now, if this happens to somebody who's not even a hardcore journalist, you can imagine what the real journalists go through.
Right.
But the important thing is to know what you're doing, to believe in the truth of what you're doing. That is the most important thing. It has to be beyond any agenda.
To believe in the truth of what you're doing. Meher Tarar, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for your comments. Let me quickly go across to Gul Bukhari. Gul Bukhari, your final comments. Of course, everybody agrees that we all have to move forward, and we have to just face these issues, as all of us have been saying. Your final comments on the conversation.
Very much. I think apart from believing in all of that, which everything is correct, I think people need to be very careful. The journalists, and as Meher said, everybody's being attacked, but the fact is that here we're talking about journalists. They have to be very, very careful. They're on the front line with, right in front of all the other human rights defenders as well. But the key thing here, as you saw, the latest fracas we had with Geo Television, it came in the crosshairs between the establishment and the civilian government, which was a question you had put initially to Beena.
Yeah.
And I think it is ultimately important. I think we will ultimately gain our freedoms more and more if we get a strong democracy going, a democracy that does represent us as well, people under threat. That's the only way.
Right. Gul Bukhari, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining the conversation. I would now like to get final comments from Aisha.
Yeah, hi. basically, I just wanted to say that I dedicated a full column to when Meena and Alex were expelled in Daily Times. And the reason I did that was it's very important to have Indian journalists come to Pakistan and see, what is beyond the headlines. The people of Pakistan, the way they are, the peace-loving people who,
Of course.
want to. Yeah, so that needs to come out in journalism. We need to show the softer image of each other's countries so that we stop this warmongering, which is not helping either one of our countries.
All right. Aisha, thank you so much. Thank you very, very much for your comments. And Alex, some very wonderful comments from your colleagues there. Very quickly, your last comments on also being on this conversation.
No, absolutely. Some wonderful comments, and as Meher said that what needs to be done is just keep doing what they're doing.
Yes.
But then the media also has to stay united. For example, somebody mentioned this Geo television issue. So Geo television brought out the huge differences between the media itself. We had one set of media group which was trying to go for the kill when Geo was on the downside. What needs to be done is there needs to be unity among the media itself for them to stand together.
This conversation has generated so much of interest on IndiaPostLive.com. I'm really happy, though we've had a very extended conversation right now. We just have a few seconds. I have Rab Nawaz joining us. He is a blogger and editor of Laltain.com, which is Pakistan's first bilingual youth magazine, online youth magazine. Rab Nawaz, welcome to the conversation. Hi.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Rab Nawaz. Rab Nawaz, I will have to unfortunately take your just one comment on the entire issue that we're talking of Pakistan being a dangerous place for journalists. Your final, in fact, I'm sorry, I'm having to call this your final comment, your only comment on this conversation.
Yeah, my only comment would be that there are two kind of groups who are primarily targeting journalists. One, security establishment, and two, militants. And I would focus rather on the religious militants. Both of these groups, behind whatever they do, I think there is underlying reason that I would call ideology. So that ideology is, in my opinion, a very strong reason why both the security establishment and the religious militants are targeting journalists. And just to add a bit more, journalists have to stand united against it if they want to.
Exactly.
If they want to do anything about it.
That has emerged, Rab Nawaz, that has definitely emerged as a consensus from all our guests that we've had in the studio and online, from Beena Sarwar, from Gul Bukhari, from Aisha, from Meher, and also from you, and also of course from Farhan, who joined us through Google Hangout. Farhan, thank you so much once again, for having joined. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. We couldn't bring you in much, but I hope you enjoyed the conversation.
Oh yeah, I did. It's absolutely essential, and it's all important stuff that needs to be talked about. And just one last comment, if you give me 5 to 10 seconds.
I'll give you 10 seconds.
Okay, so what Kamran said, I completely agree to it, and I think we need to stand by the weak, especially after the Geo television ban context. Because if we do not raise voice for the weak and stand by them, then once the shit hits the fan for us, there will be no one to raise voice for us. So it's
wonderful. What a thing to say on India Post Live. When the shit hits the fan, then we will have nobody. Thank you so much. Those are very nice final comments from you, Farhan, and I think you put it very aptly. Sometimes such strong statements need to be made. Thank you so much. I would like to thank all of you, of course, Kamran sir as well, for joining on the conversation with your insights, and the fact that all of us must stand together, all of us must cooperate and go on reporting, go on doing what we are here to do. The conversation continues on IndiaPostLive.com through your audio and video comments, your posts, your tweets on hashtag IndiaPostLive and @IndiaPostLive. Thank you so much. It was marvelous. The fact that so many journalists, all of us got together and talked about this issue itself shows it is of big concern to all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.